All right, we're back on the record. Before you call your first witness, I'd ask counsel if there's anything else preliminary that we need to address this morning.
No.
First down.
I believe so.
Mr. Grant, call your witness.
The people call Jim Thorson to the stand, please.
Well, over here, Mr. Thorson. Okay. Please stay standing. You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Maybe. Before we start, I just want to make sure that every commissioner has a reasonable view of the witness.
Absolutely. Okay. Morning, could you please say your full name for the record?
James E. Thorson.
Mr. Thorson, could you recount your most recent employment in the state of Rhode Island?
I was most recently employed as the Director of Administration.
And what were the dates of that employment?
That began in March of 2001 through April of 2023.
So was that March of 2021?
Yes.
Thank you. And prior to being the Director of Administration, did you have other employment in the state of Rhode Island?
Yes,
Did you recount some of that employment?
sure. I became the Director of Revenue in 2020. 2020, October of 2020.
That's the Director of Revenue.
Director of Revenue.
Administration.
No, the Director of Revenue is a separate cabinet position. It reports to the governor. It's responsible for taxation, revenue collection, revenue estimation, lottery, DMV, and municipal finance. Prior to that, I was the Chief Financial Officer of Health Source Rhode Island. So I was involved in the establishment of the health insurance exchange under Obamacare. And that was from 2015 to 2017.
And prior to
that, I was the Deputy Treasurer of the state, working in this building actually for 4 years, from 1995 to 1999, under Nancy Mayer, which involved the management of the state's debt, the state's cash management, and the state pension fund operations.
When you say in this building, was your office on this particular floor of our building?
I was here when they built this office area out, and I was here when the Ethics Commission moved in.
So you shared a floor space with the Ethics Commission?
Yes, right down the hall.
So in your considerable years of state service, you were aware that there is a state code of ethics?
I was, yes.
You ever had ethics training from the?
Yes, I have.
Commission? You ever had ethics training from me?
No,
Okay. Is the DOA director a cabinet level?
it is a cabinet level position that reports to the governor.
So your direct report as the DOA director would be to the governor or his chief of staff?
Well, yes.
So could you generally describe the powers and duties of the Department of Administration?
Sure. I was responsible for oversight of 13 different divisions, including budget, the Pandemic Recovery Office, the Office of Energy Resources, Central Business Office, Accounts and Control, IT, DCAM, HR, Purchasing, Health Source Rhode Island, and others. It was about 675 employees and a budget of about 1.3 billion.
So on the scale of state agencies, is the Department of Administration?
Sorry, I wasn't done.
Okay.
I was also responsible for coordinating with other department heads about their operational needs. And that meant mustering the resources of the Department of Administration to, as I used to say, help keep their promises. And in addition to that, there was the COVID thing. And so that's not in the described duties, but it was an unfortunate duty that came with the job. And I spent a lot of time making sure that there was financial support for the mitigation effort for COVID. And that was sort of unique to my era because it was federal fund monies and it was unappropriated. So there had to be a process for making sure that the monies were spent judiciously and in compliance with federal grants.
So when you say the interaction with the other department heads, department directors, so the Department of Administration is really running, is really involved in every
Essentially, yes.
state agency. The Department of Health, Department of Administration is involved in the purchases, for instance, for Department of Health, and personnel issues for Department of Health, and Buddha and the Ethics Commission and others. DOA has its hand in many state agencies. Is that accurate?
Virtually every state agency has contact with Department of Administration.
Do you know that whether the DOA director is designated the chief purchasing officer?
Yes.
Yes. What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that last person to make a decision or responsible decision is the Director of Administration.
And a decision in the context of the chief procurement officer, or procurement type of decision.
But effectively, there's a person who runs purchasing. Does for profession, purchase agent. I had oversight over purchasing. That's basically what that means.
Right. So there is a head of the purchasing division, but as DOA director in the chain of command.
Yes,
And as chief purchasing officer, ultimately, your decision would stand over the chief of the purchasing division, should you choose to make a decision.
yes.
I understand you probably delegate that decision making.
I never had a situation where I overruled purchasing officer.
Who's responsible for hiring the division heads?
I was.
And does that include for DCAM?
I includes DCAM and of the 13 different department divisions that I oversaw, because there was a transition from Governor Raimondo to Governor McKee, there was a considerable amount of turnover. 9 of my 13 direct reports turned over, as well as my chief of staff, my administrative assistant, and relations person.
So when you call these division heads, you call them division chief, division director, sure, what would you prefer?
It differs depending on the size of the agency, and some are called heads, some are called directors.
So in looking at these division heads or division directors, you call them a direct report. So does that mean that on the chain of command, you are the direct line supervisor of these division heads?
Yeah, I have oversight responsibility for each of them.
And now DCAM has its own director. That's the correct terminology.
Yes. The head of DCAM is the director.
Is the director, and the director of DCAM, the chain of command reports directly to Director of Administration.
That's correct.
You were the DOA director in March of 2022.
That's correct.
And do you recall the hiring of David Patton as DCAM director, which I believe would have been around March of 2022?
I think he started in April of 2022, and there was a search process that was posted online. Respondents were interviewed by staff, and after several rounds of interviews, I was presented with finalists, of which Mr. Patton was one. And I interviewed him.
And you did interview him.
Yes,
And how did he do in the interview?
he presented well. His credentials were that he had previous experience in managing the labs for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. He had experience he was currently working as the CFO of Mystic Seaport and had prior experience working for the state at CCRI.
Did interview him. Who besides you would have evaluated David Patton's job performance?
My staff would interview him, and that would include my chief of staff and others on the committee. I don't really remember who was on the committee, but HR would have been involved, and 2 or 3 other people would have been doing interviews.
As DOA director, did you ever meet with Dave Patton to discuss and supervise his work as decon director?
Yes, I did. I met with him at least twice a month. I did with each of my direct reports.
And did you evaluate his performance as decon director?
There really isn't a formal evaluation process for that. So I guess the answer is formally no.
As the director of the Department of Administration, would you have had the authority to discipline or terminate David Patton?
Yes, the only reason I hesitate is because it's very difficult to discipline anyone in state government because of the certain rules that we have for process. So yes, but I would not do so without the advice of human resources.
Was David Patton a union member to your knowledge?
He was not.
Turning to the Cranston Street Armory, you're familiar with the state-owned building known as the Cranston Street Armory?
I am.
Can you describe it?
It's a large building, about 160,000 square feet, 2 football fields wide on the inside. It was been used for various functions over the years since the Guard left in 1997. It's been joked about as the state's kitchen and drawer for all kinds of activities, including there was at some point some storage of PPE there for the pandemic. It served as a movie studio on occasion. It was used as a warming center during the winter of 22-23. But it's been mostly underutilized for the last 20 or 30 years.
As a state-owned building, did the operation and maintenance of the armory fall under the authority of DCAM?
It's one of the functions of DCAM to maintain all state buildings, so yes.
Now, are you aware that sometime in 2020, before you became the DOA director, the Department of Administration issued an RFP seeking private developers to partner with the state in the redevelopment or use of the Cranston Street Armory?
I am aware of that.
That RFP that was issued through the Department of Administration on behalf of its DCAM division. Does that sound accurate?
I think it would have come out of purchasing office on behalf of DCAM. But I'm not really sure of that. I'd have to defer on that one in terms of the particulars.
Okay.
Predates my tenure.
It's okay, we'll leave it at that. By the time you became the director in 2021, there was no contract yet between the state and Scout. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
When you became director in 2021, were you given any guidance or instructions, perhaps from the governor's office, for instance, as to doing something with either the Cranston Street Armory or with Scout?
Not so much. Really, the priority of the administration was to focus on COVID mitigation, which deprioritized this project. It was also a project from the prior administration that had to be picked up. So current administration wasn't really read in on the project. The champion of the project really was a woman by the name of Carol Cornelissen, who was then head of DCAM and had gone and shepherded through the RFP process that selected Scout and worked a lot with the community groups who have an interest in seeing its redevelopment. So that's where I got most of my information, was Director Cornelissen. Unfortunately, she died in September. It was unexpected.
When David Patton became the new DCAM director in March, or I guess April, I think April of 2022, was he directed to do something with the Cranston Trio?
So in June of 2022, there was a meeting at the State House with the governor's staff and Lieutenant Governor, in which we were asked, Reeve and I were asked to see if we could make something happen with seeing what could be done with revitalizing our interest and energy in that project.
Can you recall who from the governor's staff was present at that meeting?
I can include most of the people. I don't know if I can include all of them, but the Lieutenant Governor was there, Governor's Chief of Staff.
That's Sabina Matos.
Yes. Tony Afonso, who's the Governor's Chief of Staff, Joe Almond, who's also on the Governor's staff, Chris Farrell, who's a policy advisor on the Governor's staff, myself and Dave Patton. I don't know if that's everyone, but those people were there.
So again, you and David Patton were asked to do what exactly?
See if we could make something happen, pursue it. I had expressed some concerns about the financial feasibility of the project. And, but we were asked to move forward and seeing what we could do about pursuing a redevelopment plan.
Why were you included in that meeting and not just David Patton?
Because Patton reports to me and, as Patton reports to me. There had been some conversations that Patton had informally, and that was a formal meeting to figure out how to proceed.
Okay, so part of the role as the director of DOA is to be involved in those types of discussions between the governor's office and the DCAM division as to Cranston Street Arm.
Typically.
Are you aware that Scout and the state entered into something called an agreement for pre-development services on or about June 30th, 2022?
Yes.
Would like to show the witness exhibit P7, which has been introduced to the full exhibit.
Just want the record to reflect that the exhibit that is being used in the record is being maintained by Ms. Mixera. She has provided that exhibit to Mr. Dorson and will continue to provide the exhibit to Mr. Dorson from the official set of documents.
Thank you. Do you recognize what the mark is? Exhibit 7.
Yes.
Is that the agreement or a copy of the agreement for, does it appear to be a copy of the agreement for redevelopment services?
It appears to be that, yes.
Would you please read the first line under the title on the first page?
It's the agreement for pre-development services. The agreement is made effective as of this 30th day of June 2022, effective date by and between the State of Rhode Island Department of Administration and Scout Urban LLC a Pennsylvania limited liability company. State and Scout are individually and collectively referred to herein as party or parties.
Thank you. So. The parties listed in that paragraph you read do not include DCAM. Is that correct?
No, it's the Department of Administration.
And if you'll turn to the signature page.
Yeah.
Few pages before the end. Doesn't have a page number on it. That you have. Under in witness whereof, can you read what it says after state above the signature? Oh, you are not.
6N.
Different page. Here we go. You're asking me to read the sign signature line?
Yes,
David Patton.
Yeah, above David Patton.
State of Rhode Island Department of Administration and DCAM. State agency signed by David Patton.
So, so David Patton signed this agreement on behalf of state, the Department of Administration and DCAM.
Yes.
Did you approve this agreement?
No.
Were you? Is this the type of agreement that normally would be subject to the approval or disapproval of the Director of Administration?
Yes.
Did you disapprove of this agreement?
No.
Can you explain how you neither approved nor disapproved?
Well, I knew that Dave was engaged in discussions with them and he told me about the terms of the documents, but I never actually got the document for the sign. I would, yeah.
Do you know whether this agreement went through legal counsel review prior to being?
No, I don't.
You don't know, or it did not?
I don't think it did.
Was it your understanding that under this agreement, Scout would be paid $400,000 over 4 months for pre-development services related to the Cranston Street Armory?
Yes.
And was Scout paid $400,000 over 4 months for those services?
I believe they were.
Was it your understanding that under this agreement, after those 4 months, Scout would be paid $25,000 per month until the state either terminated the agreement or entered into a new master agreement?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, at least for a time, was Scout paid $25,000 a month following that initial 4 month?
Yes.
I am, thank you. Just a moment, please. At the time of your trip to Philadelphia, was this agreement for pre-development services still active in Scout and state of Rhode Island?
I believed that it was. Still believe that it was, yeah.
So that Scout was still able at that time to invoice $25,000 a month for the monthly fee?
That's correct.
After the 4 month redevelopment period, in or around November of 2022, did Scout present DCAM or the Department of Administration with a development proposal for the Cranston Street Armory?
Yes.
Yes. Who did it present to?
There was a presentation to myself, Roger Patton, Libby Kimsey. Those are the people I recall. There may have been others. It was done virtually.
Virtually, so over Teams or Zoom? And this was in November of 2022?
Yes.
Were you involved in the evaluation of the proposal?
No, not exactly. I mean, in terms of evaluation, getting the proposal required evaluation that had to be done after receiving the proposal, meaning that I had asked Patton to get a feasibility consultant to run through the numbers and look at the financial feasibility of the project.
So that was a decision you made that
Yes.
the financials of the proposal needed a closer look?
Well, what happened was that we pushed really hard to get Scout to get something to us before the October budget deadline. And they pushed it past that into November. Ultimately, the governor decided not to include that in his proposed budget because he really didn't have enough information. And so it was after that meeting and into the early part of the year that I asked for a feasibility analysis to be done. And for us to later on to take a trip to see firsthand and report back to the governor whether the project comported with his stated objectives that he had in his budget message about improving incomes, improving healthy outcomes, and educational outcomes. So this was, we didn't have enough time to do a proper analysis for him to put it into the budget. And so that was happening afterwards in terms of the evaluation. So yes, I was involved in that. But it wasn't a situation where they presented in November and then we did an evaluation. So that's how that sequencing works.
Okay, you brought up the state budget, so, we're gonna ask you some questions about the budget process, if that's okay. So when you're talking about funding in the state budget, are we talking about the fiscal 2024 budget?
That's correct.
So the way the state budget works, the fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th, is that correct?
That's correct.
So that in November of 2022, the Department of Administration and the governor's office are working on, this is on the 2024 budget.
Yes.
What department of the state prepares the governor's proposed budget?
It's the Department of Administration under the Office of Management and Budget. The Director of Management and Budget has a dotted line for the governor's office.
So it's is it fair to say that that director is a subordinate of yours, but also can bypass your direction and go straight to the governor?
That's correct.
What month does the governor generally submit his or her proposed budget?
In January.
So in January of 2023, we would expect the governor to release his proposed budget for fiscal 2024 that begins on July 1st.
Correct.
Do you recall, so you spoke about a meeting in November among yourself, DCAM and Scout to talk about their proposal. Do you recall a forum with the governor's office at the end of December where Scout made another formal proposal to the governor's office, to DOA, to DCAM, regarding what its proposal was?
I may be mixing those two up between November and December.
It would be December 30th.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah. And
Lindsay Scanapico would have been out of the country.
she was in New Zealand.
Yes.
And it was done virtually.
And Scout presented its redevelopment plan, and this would have been the first time the governor's office was involved in clearing that presentation. Is there a PowerPoint presentation?
There was, yes, I believe there was, yeah.
So is it fair to say that, was this meeting relating to Scout wanting the state to commit to funding its plan in the fiscal 2024 budget?
Yes.
Do you recall how much funding Scout was seeking to be included in the 2024?
They were looking for $15 million, $15 million for phase one.
Phase one. So in FY 2025, there could have been more, 26?
Yes, it was, there was about a $60 million total financing capital stack over a 4 or 5 year period done before the redevelopment done stages and phases.
And to be clear, Scout, this wouldn't have been $60 million that all would have gone into Scout's pocket. This is to fund the redevelopment, but Scout would have earned some of those fees.
I think the total commitment for the state was about $36 million and the rest was either grant monies or tax credits. So the capital stack included a bunch of different sources. And the state's commitment would be $36 million, according to that proposal.
I'm getting more to the use of that $36 million or the total amount. Some of that would have been used to pay contractors, developers, architects, and some of it would have gone to Scout. Is that
Yes,
fair?
that's correct, yes.
Okay. Not all.
No, gosh, no.
All right, okay. And you attended this meeting on December 30th?
Yes.
Yes. I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 9, which is a full exhibit. Do you recognize what has been marked as Exhibit 9?
Yes,
Tell me what that is.
it's an email. Fred. Starting from Everett Abidal from Scout. Me, and then me to back to him.
Can you read aloud Everett's initial email to you? And
That's me. Thank you and Happy New Year is the subject. It says, Director Thorson, I speak for both Lindsay and I when I say thank you for providing the forum today with the governor's team. We are thankful for your advocacy and excited to see this important project progress. Have a wonderful new year and feel free to call during the holidays if there are any urgent needs or questions.
Thank you.
Responding back. Thanks, Everett, and especially Lindsay. I hate to interrupt holiday time, but that is an important meeting to have. Happy New Year. And then back to me from Everett. Thank you. Let us know if there are any questions we can answer in the interim.
Thank you. Back to the fiscal 2024 budget. Do you know whether the governor's 2024 proposed budget ended up including any funding for Scouts redevelopment?
Did not.
It did not. And again, do you recall when that budget was released?
I think it comes out either the second or third week of January.
So notwithstanding no funding for that next phase, DOA and DCAM didn't terminate the pre-development agreement at that time, did it?
That's correct. We didn't get a hard no on the project because we don't have enough information to make a decision.
Okay, so explain that. Even though there was no funding in the initial release budget in January, was there a possibility that that same budget could be amended to add money in before it went to the General Assembly in June for a vote?
It's possible, yes. It's difficult to do, but that's one of the options we were exploring.
And that would have been a budget amendment?
Yes,
Was Scout aware that there was possibility of a budget amendment?
yes, but that was in part of the agenda for the meeting in Philadelphia, was to talk more about that.
So the decision at this point for DOA, DCAM and the governor's office, I suppose, was whether to fund Scout's plan in fiscal 2024 or not to fund.
Well, there's a third option there that could roll into the next budget. The 25 budget.
So could have extended perhaps the pre-development agreement and the $25,000 payments until the next budget's.
Perhaps. The notion was that spending $25,000 a month was expensive, but not nearly as expensive as committing funds to a project that was a bad deal. And, there was work that they were doing in the meantime to, tweak their, development plan, and we were getting more information through the, feasibility analysis. We didn't want to enter into a bad deal, and we wanted to keep their interest and keep the project alive.
I'll show you exhibit 10. Exhibit 10, which is a full exhibit. Do you recognize what that is?
This is an email from David Patton to Chris Farrell. Copy to me and the him to my chief of staff.
And in this email from David Patton, is it fair to say that he presents two scenarios about funding Scouts Plan?
Yes,
One being if we fund Scouts Plan and the other being if we don't fund Scouts Plan.
right.
Looking at the first paragraph, the first full paragraph, could you read the last line, which is underlined?
Let me be clear, I will support whatever decision is made by Director Thorson and the governor's office.
So is that accurate that the decision as to these options is going to be made by you as director of DOA and the governor's office?
Really, the governor has to make the decision as to whether he's going to fund it. It's called the governor's budget proposal. I could veto it. I suppose. I factor into the decision process.
So is it fair to say that you participate in the decision making? Yes, to those issues.
That's fair to say.
Thank you. In February of 2023, you mentioned before that you had asked that there be a consultant review of Scout's proposal. Is that correct?
Correct.
And this would have been some outside financial review. Can you describe what you had in mind for the financial review?
Yes, an analysis of whether the, what the costs were, whether they were reasonable, whether the fees were reasonable, whether the financing underpinning the project was actually going to work, an expert perspective. I knew we didn't have the capacity in-house to do that kind of analysis, and wanted to make sure that the financial underpinnings of the project were sound.
Was Scout made aware that its proposals and term sheets and plans were going to go through this financial review?
Yes.
Who was responsible for specifying the scope of the financial review to the outside consultant?
Well, I am more or less, not more or less, I am. And, the way that we were hiring the feasibility consultant was through a master purchase agreement. And the master purchase agreement allows us to hire on an expedited basis without going through a formal RFP process, provided that we follow certain scope of services. So in order to be consistent with the scope of services that will allow us to track the JLL, that would be my objective. We're going to contract that way with the feasibility consultant. And as it was, it took longer than I wanted it to, just to make sure that we recorded with scope that we were able to do.
At some point, did Christopher Farrell from the governor's office insert himself into the scope of the financial review?
Yes, he did.
In what way?
Well, he had some suggestions that he made to the director Patton. And I told Patton sent it to me, and I remarked back to him that he should not take instruction from governor's office on scope of services. I was concerned about him interfering with that scope that we had within our parameters.
Do you recall, was that email that you sent to David Patton sent on March 9th?
I don't remember when it was. I'm sure you have a copy.
See, so it's Steve, please. So this, if you just scan what has been marked as exhibit 16, really this, I'm just using it for refresher recollection.
It looks like it was sent on March 8th.
March 8th. Do you recall if you ever received a reply to your instruction to David Patton?
No, I don't.
So just to be clear, this is an email of you telling David Patton that Christopher Farrell from the governor's office cannot give you direction on the scope of the financial review and that that's a problem.
I said that if he has information requests, please respond to them. Do not take direction from him.
Okay, so this is an example of you being David Patton's supervisor, is that correct? And directing him
Yes,
how to respond to someone from the governor's office?
yes.
Yes. Thanks. I want to talk a little bit about Scout's invoicing. Is it fair to say that in 2023, Scout was occasionally complaining that its $25,000 invoices were not being paid in a timely way?
So those complaints, yes.
You know, were there other invoices that they complained were not being paid in a timely way, again, in early 2023? Perhaps vendor invoices. I'll take that one back. You agree that Scout believed that some of its $25,000 a month invoices were due and owing and outstanding?
Yes,
Would that been the case in March 10th?
yes.
Yes.
What, I'm sorry, would what be the case?
That as of March 10th, Scout believed that there were $25,000 monthly invoices that were due, owing, and outstanding.
I don't have any reason to think otherwise, but it wasn't something that I was necessarily attuned to.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's talk about the trip to Philadelphia. So at some point, did you decide that as part of your due diligence over Scout's proposal that you and David Patton should travel to Philadelphia?
Yes,
What was the purpose of the travel to Philadelphia?
there were three reasons to do the trip. One was to do the due diligence to find out firsthand whether the project comported with the governor's budget objectives that I described earlier. The other was to message that the project remained important enough for us to actually travel down and look at it. So we wanted to indicate that we were still engaged. Another reason was to establish Patton as the lead on the project, because I had already submitted my resignation and wasn't going to be around for very much longer, but that was not an explicit. They didn't know that. They didn't know that. Also to tell them that we were progressing the feasibility consultant analysis.
Okay, so this was official state government business, the trip.
Yes,
Yes. Before we begin discussing the trip, I understand you released a public statement through your attorney regarding what happened during the trip. Is that correct?
yes.
Did I just show you exhibit 1, please? On whether that appears to be the stage.
It appears to be the statement.
Would that have been on or about June 4th, 2023? We know.
That sounds about right.
The statement says it's released through your attorney, but it's written in the first person. Did you write the statement?
I drafted it.
Right. Um. That's a, thank you.
I'm sorry, I was reading it. Like a long time ago.
Why did you need to attend this trip personally? Why not just send David Patton?
Because I wanted the message that, again, that it was important to me. And, I don't know that it really hadn't have been talking to them all along. And he hadn't been able to get them to a place where the governor was willing to commit. Okay.
Did the state pay for this trip?
Yes,
So they would have paid for the airfare,
yes.
maybe the cab rides?
I think they paid for that out of pocket. He was in the cab paying him when I got out.
So you don't know whether any receipts were submitted for cab or air?
No,
Who's Roxanne Okachi?
she was my administrative assistant.
Your administrator?
Yes,
In the office of the director of DOA?
yes.
Is that who booked your flights for you?
I think so. I had asked her about some flights that I saw. She told me of, she was working with Sandra Schenk in Dave's office, who was handling all the arrangements.
Did you direct David Patton to contact Scout for them to be prepared for your visit to Philadelphia?
Yes, I did. I did.
Did you talk to anyone from Scout regarding visiting Philadelphia and visiting Scout on March 10th?
I did not.
Is it your understanding that David Patton specifically asked Scout for the two of you to have lunch at Earl Express?
I'm sorry, I want to be careful.
Is it your understanding that David Patton asked Scout that the two of you have lunch at Irwin's?
Yes,
And Irwin's is a restaurant located within the Bach Building.
yes,
The Bach Building is this former public building that has similarities to the redevelopment plan for the Cranston Street Armory.
yes.
So show me exhibit 19, which is an email from a person named Jess Kripke at Scout to you. This is an email from March 9th. In exhibit P19. Did you receive this email?
Yes, I did.
Can you please read the subject line?
Box, site visit and lunch.
Would you please read the email from Jess Kripke to?
Yes, Director Thorson. Hi, Director Thorson. We are excited for your visit to Bach tomorrow. Please let me know if you have any food allergies as we prepare for your lunch at Irwin's, and do not hesitate to reach out with any questions prior to your arrival.
So that email was sent, what is the time, the date stamp on that?
Thursday, March 9th at 12:18 p.m.
When did you first see that email?
I believe it was Friday morning. I responded to her at 8:06. Jess, I'm only allergic to calamari. Go figure. Thanks, you got it.
And is that a joke because calamari is the state's, what is it, shellfish appetizer?
I actually got a rash. I love it, and it doesn't love me. This thing that happens, other things happen too, but I don't want to talk about that.
So I see what the time and date stamp is on your response, are you certain that that is when you first saw the email, or you're just certain that that's when you responded?
I think that's when I first saw the email. Because I had been backed up on emails. I used to get more than 200 emails a day, and during that whole week, I was cramming for the presentation in front of the House Subcommittee on Finance. So I don't think I got that, but it wasn't the first time I'd heard about the lunch. I heard that on the plane ride on the way down from.
Okay. Talk about that. Sure, we will hear about that. So this response that you sent at
6 a.m.
8:06
on
a.m.
Friday morning, after we had landed in Philadelphia.
Is that 8:06 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so you're in Philadelphia, you haven't made it to the Bach building.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. And then moving over to exhibit 20. Exhibit T20 is an email from Jackie Rush to you. Also on March 9th at 5:22, is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the subject of her?
Bach itinerary.
And did you read her, what she writes at her?
Hello, Director Thorson and Director Patton. Please see the attached detailed itinerary for your visit tomorrow, along with short bios of some of the tenants you'll be meeting with.
Thank you. You turn the page on exhibit 20. Does that appear to be the itinerary that was emailed to you?
Yes.
And it includes an arrival at 9 a.m. Is that right?
Correct.
And then from 9:10 to 11, a tour of tenant spaces,
Correct.
and concludes with 11:15. Could you read the rest of that line?
Lunch at Irwin's. Head chef Michael Ferrari.
Thank you. So this also, is this also another of the emails that was sent the night before, but you first saw when you were on the ground in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Prior to going through the box.
Yes.
So you went to Philadelphia on March 10th, which is Friday, correct? The day before that, on Thursday, did you gather with some of your Department of Administration employees at a restaurant day, Thursday evening? What was the occasion?
Well, as I mentioned, there was a presentation to the House Subcommittee on Finance that day. And that is something that takes weeks or even months to prepare for. Staff have worked really hard. It's where I, or any director is called, goes and testifies on behalf of their department on any questions relating to the proposed budget that the governor has proposed. Takes questions from the panel members. And most of the division heads also attend in case I get any questions. And then afterwards, we can go and celebrate ladder 133 with staff.
Relative to the testimony, did David Patton, your DCAM director, appear at that
He did.
hearing? Did you expect him to appear at that hearing?
I did.
You did, and you expected him to provide testimony?
I did.
How many people went to ladder 133?
8 people.
8 people. Including yourself, David Patton, your chief of staff, Lee Kinsey.
Yes.
So that would be 3, and then 5 more.
That's right.
These were all your subordinates, employees within the Department of Administration.
Yes.
You're the head.
I'm the head.
Okay. And did you leave before the other employees?
I did.
what time did you,
About 8:15,
was everyone else still there at that time?
yes.
Now, while you were all there, can you describe, were you at a table? Were you at several tables? Were you at the bar? Where was the group?
There were two high top rounds mushed together.
The 8 of you around 2 high top rounds?
Yes,
Were you eating food, drinking?
there. I had a beer and a slider and maybe an apple or two, and I think everybody else was doing the same.
So food and drinks, standing up or sitting at
High top, it's a high top
with chairs?
with chairs.
Did you notice any odd behavior from David Patton that evening?
Well, I mean, he was kind of loud. He is, come on, I'm buying, and he was kind of boisterous. But, he needled the waitress a little bit too about how, the service was slow and I was gonna tip him 20%, but now I'm only gonna tip you 15, and I was like, Dave. Stop. And, so that went on for a little bit, and then I excused myself like a good boss. I goes to the party and said I was gonna go to the men's room, and I went to the waitress and paid the tab and went out the back door.
Okay, so paid the tab up to them, what's the damage, pay that if they want to stay and drink, then they're on their own, at that point, or eat, whatever.
Whatever, I didn't wanna be the reason, I didn't wanna be a party pooper.
Right, you're the director.
I wanted them to enjoy themselves, and so I just quietly did the Irish goodbye.
As the director, as the person in charge, is this a normal thing for you to pick up the tab for your
No.
employees?
No,
No?
no, I know they can't pay for me. But normally, well, there weren't a lot of situations where I went out with staff. That's number one. You could probably count them on your hands and have fingers left over. But most often, if that's the case, people tend to pay their own way.
You mentioned that among the things David Patton had said was, it's on me.
Yeah, actually, I think he said, I may order anything you want.
Okay. So did you take that to mean that he was gonna pick up the tab at ladder 133 that night?
I didn't take that seriously.
No. Okay. And he didn't pick up the tab? Did you not?
No, to my knowledge, no.
No, you did.
Right.
You recall how much it was?
I think it was around $300.
300 with the tip.
Mm-hmm.
At any time that evening, did anyone else who had attended that gathering let you know that David Patton was behaving strangely or inappropriate?
No, that's my recollection, no.
Do you recall whether you got any communications, text or email from your chief of staff that evening?
She did send a text at around 10 PM and I was already in bed.
And generally, what was this text? What was the nature of the text?
It was, I'm gonna be careful how I quote it. You have it in the,
I do have a copy of it that I could show you to refresh your recollection, but it's not an exhibit that will be entered into evidence.
okay. She said, I think Patton might be having a manic episode. Call me when you get a moment. Call me in the morning when you get a moment. Good one.
That was 10 PM Thursday evening.
Yes,
When did you see that?
in the morning, before I left for the airport.
So at your home in the
Yeah.
morning?
Before I left for the airport, I don't know, 4:30 in the morning?
Did you respond to that text?
No,
When is the next time that you interacted with your chief of staff, Woody Kinston?
I didn't call because it was too early and then I was engaged. I got another text from her at 10 AM.
That would have been in the middle of the tour.
Yes,
What did that text say?
it said, staff had comments about Dave's behavior, and we're meeting this afternoon to discuss. Can't remember the exact words.
Okay, so at ten AM while you're on the tour, and did you see that text at or around ten AM while you're on the tour?
I think I saw it just before I walked in to lunch.
Okay, so, and the nature of that text was that some of the staff who had attended the gathering the night before were making official comments,
At this point, they were not official.
that they were speaking to the
Yes.
supervisors?
Yes,
Okay, about what, how David Patton had been acting the night before. So you had an early flight the next morning at six AM approximately?
yes.
And what time did you wake up to prepare for the airport?
Quarter to four.
So around 3:45.
Yeah.
Did you receive an email from David Patton that morning while you were sleeping? For the morning of Friday, March 10th, at approximately 1 AM.
Yes.
I have considered 25, please. This is P25. So is this, or to be an email from David Patton to you and some of the other employees who were gathered on Thursday evening?
Yes.
And the text is very small, but does it appear to be dated and timestamped Friday, March 10th, 2023 at 12:53:11 AM?
Yes.
So you were in bed asleep when this
Oh, yes.
was written. Did you read it?
Colleagues. Here's a picture of my favorite car. You can't see the Keeper Governor bumper sticker on the back, but it's still there. It was taken at Mystic Seaport Museum, a very special place. I left. I'm sorry, I can't. CFO position at a fairly high rate of pay in a nonprofit, to lead, that's in parentheses, to lead the DCAM overhaul. Almost 1 year and I haven't looked back yet. Paul, if you can help me get a $15 million budget amendment in FY 24, I'll take you for ice cream in the rumble seat to watch Hill. You pick the day. Bring Elena and Clark. Sorry if I was obnoxious earlier. It has been a long time since I really laughed with my colleagues. You guys are the best, even my new colleagues, Riley and Bree. Director Thorson, cold Diet Coke awaits you in Philly and lunch is on me. You shouldn't have paid the tab last night, but much appreciated. Sincerely, Dave.
Thank you. We're gonna hold on to that for a moment. Referring you to that middle paragraph regarding Paul, if you can help get me a $15 million budget amendment, I'll take you for ice cream. Do you understand that to mean that he's referring to the $15 million budget amendment to fund Scouts Cranston Street Armory proposal?
Yes.
In the paragraph after that, when he says, sorry if I was obnoxious earlier, do you take that to mean he's referring to his behavior at ladder 133?
Yes.
And the final paragraph. When it says lunch is on me, what did you take that to mean?
That he had arranged for lunch in Philadelphia.
Would I arrange that he had paid for lunch?
Well, I assumed that was part of it, yes. Or was planning to. And it was important.
What was important?
Well, I wanted to position him as being in charge of the of the, I wanted to position him as being in charge of the project. And I know he can't pay for me, but, to me, it was important for him to be paying the bill.
How would he pay the bill if he wasn't paying for you?
Well, I would reimburse him afterwards.
Did you have a discussion about reimbursing him afterward?
No, we didn't get that far.
Just a moment. 1 second. When did you flight leave Friday?
6 a.m.,
And what time did you arrive at the airport?
5 a.m.
Do you recall when you became aware of the email that we were just referring to from David Patton? In the early hours of that morning?
I could not tell you that. I don't know.
Does it surprise you that he was up at nearly 1 a.m. sending emails?
I didn't look at the timestamp when I got it.
Do you know if you read that email before you got to Philadelphia?
I don't know if I read it before I got to Philadelphia.
Do you think you read it while you were at Philadelphia, or could this be an email that you didn't even read until you returned from Philadelphia?
I would be hypothesizing, and I don't want to do that.
So you may not have read the email. You don't know. You may have received it while you were in Philadelphia, or read it while you were in Philadelphia. You may have read it after.
Well, I think. Yeah, I don't want to say because I could be wrong.
Oh, you don't, either way, you have no firm memory of having received it before you left Philadelphia. Having read it before you left Philadelphia.
I don't have a firm memory of that.
Leave it at that for now. Do you recall when David Patton arrived at the airport?
It was. I think it was 5:45. Well, at the gate.
At the gate at 5:45. Did you consider that to be on time?
No.
No. 15 minutes before the flight leaves.
Yes.
What was his demeanor?
He was very high energy. And he wanted coffee.
Did he discuss whether and to what extent he had slept that evening?
Actually, when we got on the plane, he mentioned that.
What did he mention?
He mentioned that it had been a tough week for him because his daughter got engaged and his best friend had died recently, and he wasn't getting a lot of sleep.
And he appeared to you to have not gotten a good night's sleep.
Actually, he looked high energy.
Okay. When you say he looked high energy, did he look to have abnormally high energy?
I don't think so. I mean, he looks like normally would for me. Maybe a little higher, I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
When you arrived in Philadelphia, did you travel straight to the block building?
Yes,
By cab?
yes.
And when you were there, did you immediately meet up with Lindsay and Everett?
No. Because we were very early. for the meeting. It's scheduled for 9, and we were there by around 8:30.
So what did you do?
I walked around the building. Look at it. I saw a stranger who was hauling stuff out of the building across the street. So I stopped and I asked, what do you know about this facility? Is it successful? Just chatted it up with him. And then we walked around the building. And Everett saw us and came out and brought us in.
Where did they bring you to?
Their office.
Straight to, right in, straight up to the office?
Yes,
Did you stop at a coffee shop before you went
no,
out?
that was after we had dropped our coats and talked about what we were going to do.
In the room that you dropped your coats, were there any refreshments set up?
Not to my recollection, no.
Pastries?
No, no.
Did you go to a coffee shop
Yes,
for the start of your,
yes.
okay? And, you know, did you have coffee or Diet Coke or anything from the coffee shop?
I had something, I can't remember what it was. I think it was a mocha.
Okay, so everyone got a coffee, or at least you got it. Did you pay for that coffee?
No,
Do you know who paid for it?
my understanding was that they hadn't paid for it.
Can you say it's your understanding? Did you
I didn't
see
say
it?
they didn't see that.
So you don't know who paid?
Right.
Is it possible that Scout paid for it?
It's possible.
If they had paid for it, would you have considered that to be consistent with the code of ethics?
I would not have liked that, but my understanding was it's a $25 limit. So. That's my, okay.
At some point, were there any pastries provided to you and Dave Patton?
I don't remember any pastries.
No croissants?
No, that's not.
Did Scout provide you or Dave Patton or both of you with a tote bag or a promotional bag?
It's a tote bag, promotional bag with some promotional brochures, a container of honey and a notepad.
And did you keep that?
I actually gave the honey and the other stuff to that when I got back.
I understand that you went on a tour of tenant spaces in the building, a tour of the tenant spaces.
Correct.
And did that tour include Bandit Cheese, a vegan cheese making operation?
Yes,
When you were there, are you aware that David Patton requested and received a sample of cheese to take home?
I was not aware that he requested that. He told me he bought some cheese and was supporting the local economy.
So you didn't see him ask for cheese or
I did not.
receive the cheese?
I did not.
When's the? Did you ever see the cheese that he received?
I actually did not see the cheese. He had it in a bag. I asked him what he had. He said, I bought some cheese. I'm supporting the local economy.
Okay. Did the tour include a place called Remark Glass, which is a hand-blown glass artisan shop?
Yes,
Did you witness David Patton request or receive a free item of blown glass from that shop?
no,
No?
no,
Or did David Patton inform you that he had received an item from that shop?
no,
Did that tour include the US headquarters of Diodora, the
Yes.
County Shoe Company? Did you witness David Patton request and receive a free pair of shoes?
no.
Did you see David Patton leave Diodora carrying a shoebox?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
I was standing in the hallway with Lindsay and Everett. There was a persistent problem of Patton lagging behind and chatting up with people at these places that we were touring. And he came up with a box. And I said, what do you have there, Dave? He said, it's a shoebox. I said, a shoebox, what's in the shoebox? He says, it's just a box. It sounds weird, but my son collects these. Is that a big deal? And I said, no, I don't think so, a shoebox. We had been told that Theodora was an office, not a shoe store. And that what they had was a display that looked like a shoe store. So it was plausible to me that the display was just what they said it was, a display, not shoes. And when he came up with the box, I asked him, what's in the box? And he said, it's a box.
So your statement then is that your understanding is that Dave Patton lied to you about whether or not he got shoes from Theodora.
Yes,
And did you say to him that it was de minimis?
I may have said something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what I said.
Do you think you used the phrase de minimis that day to describe anything that David Patton had done or taken during the tour?
I don't, that doesn't sound like something I would say, but I can't say I didn't say it.
So your testimony that you were not aware that David Patton had requested or received anything free during the entire tour, the entire day, your off tour.
That's my testimony.
You were on the same tour,
And we're on the same tour.
but you were separated in such a way that I take the question back. Never mind. Were you aware that David Patton was behaving strangely during the tour and not representing the state in an appropriate way?
That was my impression. I will give you an example in that when we went to one of the first places on the tour, it was a daycare, and he asked for the licensure of the daycare. And I told him, that's not your main tour visit today. You need to move on. That's one example. Oh, yes.
Were there other examples of him saying inappropriate things to tenants?
Yes, he engaged with a doctor who runs a clinic on site, and asked him about his ethnicity. And I felt really uncomfortable by that, and my reaction was to try to deflect and, keep moving forward, but the day pressed on. And I felt that it was uncomfortable at best, inappropriate at least.
Did he say or do anything inappropriate with Lindsay Scanapico?
I didn't hear that. He said something about her dog being fat. I did hear that. There was an allegation in that he may have said something else that I didn't hear. I heard him ask where her husband was, and I knew that the last time that I had talked to Lindsay, her husband, she was with her husband in New Zealand.
It was also during this tour when you received that text message you mentioned around 10 a.m. from your chief of staff noting that employees from the night before were beginning to voice reports about Patton's behavior.
Yes.
At any point during the tour, did either Everett Apple or Lindsay Scanapico voice concerns to you directly about Dave Patton's behavior?
Yes, when we were waiting for him, before we went to lunch. Everett said, is there something wrong with Dave? And my response is, I don't know. This was before I had a conversation with him about the shoebox.
Did either of them ask you to do anything to rein his behavior
No,
in? And so did you say anything to Dave Patton about reining his behavior?
I pulled him aside. And I said, Dave, you need to focus and we need to make it through this tour. But I was hesitant to say something in front of Lindsay, and that's
Why is that?
because I didn't want to dress him down in front of them. I didn't think that would be wouldn't be good for me to upraise a subordinate who's responsible for that relationship in front of them.
So you still felt that there was a salvageable relationship between David Patton and Scout?
At that point, because I hadn't seen some of the things he was alleged to have done. No, I thought that the relationship could potentially work going forward.
Let's discuss the lunch.
Mr.
Yes,
This will be time to take a short break.
certainly.
We'll go to the next step.
Yes, and for planning purposes, I may have another 30 minutes or so.
Okay. Let's go back at, we'll take 15 minutes, be back at 12:10.
I'm going to turn off the recording. Love it up. Yes, yeah.